chief Jens Stoltenberg visited Kyiv and was welcomed by Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Remember, this is the first time that the NATO chief is visiting Kyiv, that too in a surprise visit. The NATO Secretary General's visit is likely to irk the Kremlin. Significantly, this is NATO chief's first visit to the war-torn nation since Russia's full-scale invasion that began in February of 2022. Stoltenberg said that Ukraine's rightful place was in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. He further added that the membership and security guarantees for Ukraine would be high on the agenda of NATO's July summit. Stoltenberg said that NATO has supported Ukraine throughout the war, with member states supplying it with weapons, but delays in receiving more weapons caused deaths in Ukraine. Let's also listen in to what he had to say.
President Zelensky will raise the issue of membership, of security guarantees, and this will be high on the agenda of the meeting and also in the lead-up and the preparations for the Vilnius summit. Ukraine's future is in the Euro-Atlantic family. Ukraine's future is in NATO. All allies agree on that.
All right, Alexei, if I could bring you in on this. NATO chief, on his first visit, has declared that Ukraine's rightful place is in the military alliance. I know that's a promise he's made time and again throughout the war. But will he be able to shape up that prospect here on?
Sorry, you're asking me, yes?
Question to me?
Yes, it's for Alexei. Yes. Alexei, please go on. That question's for you.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me,
Thank
Alexei?
you.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you now. So absolutely, Jens Stoltenberg was right. Ukrainian future is in NATO. We are absolutely the only way to have a secure Europe is Ukraine being a member of NATO. That's clear for everybody today.
Right, but
definitely when the war is in progress in Ukraine, probably there will be not so easy to take Ukraine in. But immediately after our victory, Ukraine should become member of NATO. We have all support of our allies in this. And that's the only way to have a secure Europe. And to have a secure Europe means also to have a more secure world. That's all. So Ukrainian army today is the second strongest army in NATO after United States of America.
Right.
So we are not
Alexei,
just a country.
You know what? What I want to ask you is, will the
but
NATO chief be able to shape up that prospect? Because as I said, he has made that promise time and again. Why hasn't he been able to shape up that prospect? Is it dependent on a victory for Ukraine now?
Sure. That depends from our victory and when it will happen. Because nobody wants to take the country which is in the process of war right now. But immediately after the war will be stopped, Ukraine will become a member of NATO. I believe in this.
All right. Ben, if I could close in with your thoughts. Of course, we all know that this is a high-risk visit. What does it mean for the war?
Stoltenberg coming in with
it's for Ben.
Yeah, you have to appreciate that, NATO is actually kind of a funny beast in so much as you say, in the name, it's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that actually it's a military treaty between whatever it is, the 27 countries that are members. And it was set up in the Cold War in order to provide collective security to smaller countries, particularly in Europe, against the Soviet Union. NATO itself it's an organization, but it's just there to coordinate the military efforts. It's not a political organization. It's not a body in its own right.
Fair enough.
And Stoltenberg has been very adamant that supporting NATO, he's been a hawk against Russia, quite rightly so. And as Alexei says, he's invited Ukraine to join. And I think the assumption is that as soon as the war ends, it will, because you have this problem of Article 5. Is that any attack on a NATO member is a collective attack on all of the members, and they're obliged to go to war. And so when you have a hot war between Russia and Ukraine, as you do at the moment, if Ukraine were to join today, it would trigger Third World War immediately, in so much as the States, UK, France, Germany, Canada would all be drawn into the war immediately to protect Ukraine. And no one wants to go there. And Stoltenberg himself, he said at the beginning of the conflict, his top priority is to avoid World War III. His second priority is to help Ukraine defend itself against Russian aggression. And that's the problem. And today, listening to Zelensky, he was pushing very hard to say we want a definite timetable, we want a definite offer.
Right.
But there was a meeting in Budapest in 2008 where it was suggested, or rather it went onto the record, that Ukraine would be offered membership, but sometime in the future. No timetable was given, no criteria were given. It was just a very vague promise. And that freaked the Russians out. And that's the other side of the coin, is that countries in Europe, particularly Germany, are very afraid of giving Ukraine NATO membership because they see that as being provocative to Russia. And Russia itself has said from the beginning, these whole talks started with an ultimatum from the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs in December, that they wanted ironclad, quote, ironclad legal guarantees that Ukraine would never join NATO. And to some extent, or to a large extent, if you ask me, that this war started because of the prospect that Ukraine might join NATO. NATO's opened an office in Kyiv, again, on its own steam. I mean, it's supposed to be the representative of the member states of the alliance, but it acts, and Stoltenberg acts as a diplomat in his own right. And I think his authority to be able to do that, to make promises, is questionable because he's a representative of members of NATO. Nevertheless, it makes perfect sense for Ukraine to join NATO because that is the security guarantee they need against exactly the war that's happened. And Estonia and all the small Baltic states happily joined to get exactly that guarantee. And they're immune now. I mean, Russia can't attack Estonia, a tiny little country of 1.5 million people, because of the Article 5. It would trigger Third World War. And Lavrov himself said, like, we're not mad. We're not going to do that. We're not going to attack Estonia. We're not going to attack any NATO member. But unfortunately, Ukraine's found itself in this position where it's already been attacked. And while it's being attacked, it can't join. But for its security long term, it should join. So like Alexei was saying, when this war is over, I think very rapidly Ukraine will be made a member. But then how do we get from here to there? That's the problem.
Right. That passage of time is going to prove like a defining moment for this entire war and, of course, for Ukraine's prospective membership to NATO. Many thanks to you, Ben and Alexei, for joining in on News 18 Global.